All good? Ready to go?
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. I'd like to call the City of Highwoods City Council meeting for Tuesday, March 5th, 2019 to order. It is 7:40 on the nose. Roll call, please.
Alderman Fulber.
Here.
Aspersky.
Here.
Fiore. Levy.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Slavin.
Here.
Awesome. If you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We did have an opportunity in pre-session to run through the minutes. There were no questions or changes. I got a motion to approve 3.1 February 19th meeting, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-2. Can we have the whole meeting for February 19th? Motion to approve those minutes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. We have no appointments for this evening. However, nope, in the future we will have a couple more appointments coming up. Approval of the warrant list dated 3/5/2019.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any comments or questions on those? Pretty light this one, so that was nice. Roll call, please.
Alderman Fulber.
Yes.
Aspersky.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Slavin.
Aye.
Levy.
Aye.
You right over there? So what happens when you have a kid? You get sick, you're tired all the time. Welcome to the club.
That's true.
It's a young man's game.
We all just smile, go, I remember those days. Next item on the agenda, public input. Items not on the agenda this evening. We have 4 candidates for the upcoming election for the school districts. We have 2 from District 113 and 2 from 112. Do you want to take 113 candidates first? Do you want to come on up, introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about you and why you're running? Very good. And thanks for coming out tonight.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it. So, I haven't met most of you. I got a chance to meet Charlie and James a few weeks ago at a dinner to introduce myself, and I think for some reason, Brad, I swear that we know each other from somewhere, but
You're looking very familiar.
Sorry to do that. You used to work out maybe with Andrew Thurston, yeah?
Work out? No.
Wrong Brad. Wrong guy. Okay, never mind. I was thinking that's where I knew you from, but apparently not.
It could be.
Anyway, so I'm Mike Perlman. I'm running for District 113 School Board and Highland Park resident since 2003. My wife and I moved to the suburbs when child number 1 was about 3 years old, and child number 2 was a few weeks away or a few months away. We didn't really know, but first one was early, so second one might have been too. So we moved out, ended up in Highland Park, and we have one now child who's graduated from Highland Park High School last year and that's studying at Northwestern. Another who's a freshman at Highland Park High School now, water polo, band, drama, and we'll see what else gets added to the list over the years. I got involved when my first son went to Highland Park. I got involved in Bandstand, which is the band's booster club, and it's a fairly large organization in terms of dollars for a school club, and so I helped reorganize it, working with Dan Jenks into a legal format, because we had gotten above the dollar level that we could continue to just sort of handle the money in everybody's pockets. And so Dan and I turned it into a legal organization within the school and changed the banking for it and so on. That was my first exercise there. I continued with them for a while as treasurer and president of the organization. I then got involved in Focus on the Arts, which is, as most of you probably know, a 3-day arts festival where all the classes at Highland Park stop, and we let the kids sign up for arts programs, workshops, and performances, and all kinds of things. And I've chaired the music committee for the last couple of focuses, and chairing it again this year. So, fun way to be involved, but not putting my MBA to use. And Dan Jenks started whispering in my ear, saying, you know, why don't you serve on school board? And I said, I'm not going to deal with the 112 issues that you've got going on. I have no interest. And he said, no, you do 113, I'll do 112. So I said I'd explore it. I didn't think I'd actually do it, but as I began to explore, I found good reasons to do it. And the biggest, I think, was that as I saw what was going on in the community with the divisiveness, personal biases, personal agendas, and so on, lots of finger pointing at our last superintendent, and I don't want to defend or turn him into a criminal. I didn't have really a strong opinion of him at all, but the way it was handled really, really bothered me, and that's how I came to get involved first, and I got involved in some of the online forums. That's how I met Dan. We started talking to each other about both running, and said, okay, what can we do about this? And so let me tell you a little bit about my thinking and where I think we need to go with the school board and the way we operate to bring some civility back to it and to bring some stability back to our leadership and direction for the district. And I'm going to look at my notes so I don't miss anything. Like most school districts, District 113 has all the issues that we need to deal with that focus on our ultimate goal, which is helping each student attain their unique potential through school so that they can move on to careers and college and so on and so forth, whatever it is that their passions drive them towards. We've got issues with attaining student equity, building a strong environment for social emotional learning, balancing curriculum consistency with teacher autonomy, increasing collaboration between the high schools and the feeder districts, declining enrollment issues, and I could go on and on with the list. None of that, in my mind, can be effectively addressed as long as we continue to operate based on people's opinions and personal experiences with the school district. What I see we need to do is that we need to establish a stability in direction and leadership for the district, and we've taken the first step. We've hired a superintendent who we think can lead us that way. But in my mind, without shared and articulated objectives and means to monitor the progress towards the goals of those objectives, or towards those goals, we're not going to get anywhere. We've got to do our job as a board in monitoring progress, monitoring performance of the district first and the superintendent as well. And I think that when I say district first, what I'm getting at here is that we should be monitoring with the intent of pointing fingers and deciding whether to let somebody go or not. And that's sort of the approach that I think has been happening for many years now, is if things aren't going perfectly, we point fingers and show somebody the door, or they decide to leave themselves. We need to stop that. We need to start measuring and learning from that and trying to find ways to improve together. So first step with the new superintendent, revisiting the strategic plan that was approved in 2017, but since then sitting in a drawer. Let's adopt it. Let's put it into action, create an action plan. Let's do it with input and guidance from our faculty and our staff who are in the schools day to day, involved in the day-to-day operations of the schools, so that we're building it from bottom up instead of from top down as commands, which tends to drive a lot of resistance. Along with that, we then need to identify and institute ways to measure the performance of all the actions that we put into place. We need to include in those metrics both qualitative and quantitative measures. This is not about test scores and college admissions alone. That's always going to be a piece of it for some students, but shouldn't be our foremost measures of the district. We should be surveying students and surveying our teachers and staff. We should be putting measurements in place that align with the objectives or the actions that we put into effect. And until we align those, we're not going to be measuring to see how well we're doing. So only then can we discover the opportunities for improvement and then work together to refine and redirect efforts rather than constantly showing people the door and picking a new person who maybe can wave their magic wand and make things work. And so I really do think that bringing that objectivity to the table will help create greater civility among board members and between board members and other stakeholders in the community, the administrators, the community members and parents, the staff and faculty. I think that when people can see results and know that things are working or not working and need to be tweaked or tossed out and try something different, it's a much better way of going about it than sitting around the table and arguing about our personal opinions and experiences with somebody and some action. That's what I'd like to see happen. If I see measurements in place and a couple of years of measurements that have shown us some progress, by the time I've reached 4 years in term, I'll be a real happy board member who will feel like we've accomplished something. Because until we know where we are now and know what direction we're headed and whether or not it's towards the places we want to head, we're not going to improve any. We're just going to continue to see a revolving door and continue to see the same debates over those issues go on. I'm going to let Dan talk more specifically about the issues so that I don't take everything here, and he'll talk about some of the issues and sort of the overarching idea that I think we both agree needs to be focused on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, you'll find that Mike and I agree on the big picture issues and really where District 113 needs to go. We approach it from a slightly different perspective. Mike's the process-oriented business person. I'm the ABD in philosophy. And it really, my talking points really, it occurred to me when I was filling out responses, responding to questions from both the Landmark and from the Pioneer Press. And they both asked a very similar question. What's the biggest issue? What's the biggest problem facing District 113? And when I thought about what the answer to that is, it's like, there's so many I could pick out little things, individual things here and there, but really there's a bigger issue than that. I mean, District 113 has a mission. Its mission is to provide opportunities for all students, for each student, to realize his or her unique potential in an environment that engages them, that provides them with a curriculum that's challenging but also enriching, that has a positive culture, that addresses the issues that high school age kids are going through, in which they're challenged because of recognizing who they are and their emotional well-being, and that encourages them to explore new opportunities and to develop their passions and find new passions, and to develop a sense of resilience that will help them through the future. And really, that's the reason I decided to run, to be quite honest. I have two freshman daughters, our twin girls are freshmen at HPHS this year. And I started going to the board meetings last year when people started, you need to take a look at what's going on here, and wanting to see what my girls were headed into. And what I saw was a board that had stopped functioning. It had lost track of what its mission was, of what the mission of District 113 was. They were grappling with it, grappling with personalities, grappling with angry teachers at HPHS, grappling with the community in Highland Park that was very upset about the direction the schools were taking. And there were individual camps within the board that we believe in testing, we believe in a more humanistic approach. And nobody was really talking. Everything was at loggerheads. Fortunately, a lot of progress has been made. But I decided really to run after, it's funny, Dan Jenks gets around. He asked me about running too. And my background, besides being an ABD in philosophy, is I'm a lawyer who does a lot of I work on governance issues for corporations and risk consulting and solely a counseling practice. And one of the lessons that I've learned is that when an organization is at odds with its mission, it tends to run aground. And 113 has a very powerful mission that it needs, every decision that happens in 113 needs to take a look at that mission. It needs to reflect on how do we further our goals? How is what we're confronted with further our goals? And that even blends down to the financial area. Well, 113 went through a very painful referendum not that long ago. We can't let that happen again. 113 has to keep its house in order. That's part of its responsibility to students, to future students. And my vision for a board is a board that's committed to communication, committed to working with the superintendent, committed to change. There's a necessity for change, and there is a necessity for more information for the board, for administrators to develop about the data and trends within student development. But the previous administration apparently tried to institute that from the top down, and teachers felt threatened by it. it's important to take the time to work through these issues with the teachers and with the rest of the community, to help, to spend the time communicating and trying to work and being committed to working together. And that's really what my vision for the board is. In terms of my previous background, I've been very active in the 112 community since we moved here in 2003. And my wife was the PTO president at Sherwood, and she enlisted me to be the liaison to the district, to the board on 112. So I started going to board meetings. And then I wound up being a member of one of the 112 caucuses, and then the chairman of another the chairperson of another caucus. I helped to run the steering committee for the 112 referendum, which was definitely a painful experience, but it provided a lot of lessons, very valuable lessons, I think. You know, the referendum in 112 is something where I learned that you can't do too much without it's possible to do too much at too much cost, too quickly, in a way that feels like it's coming out of a black box. And that was part of the problem. That was a big part of the problem with the referendum in 112. The process wasn't communicated. It's important to have an even, well-explained process, and that's something that is important on a governance body such as the Board of Education. And then after that, I was on the 2.0 committee in 112. Again, looking at ways to reopen the communication and trying to get people to talk about the future and what's needed in the schools. And so that led me to being involved as my girls were going into 113, and deciding again, talking to Dan, that you don't want to run for 112, run for 113. It has the governance issues to deal with. And that brought me to where I am today. And really do appreciate you taking the time to listen to us.
Any questions about 113? Yep.
Question for both you gentlemen. My kids went, to university and stuff and graduated HBHS. Understand that, but one thing that I've been out of it now for 10 years, the better part of 10 years I've been out of it. And where do we stand, or where do you stand in terms of vocational training? You read various business articles about the lack of the next generation from plumbers and electricians, and the trades are really suffering. And there's some incredible opportunities. And I remember when I was going to school many years ago, that was a big part of the type of programming that I went to in Skokie, Niles North. There was a lot. There's from auto shop to metals and wood, and you can learn all these things. And over the years, these programs have basically been phased out of most schools. What would you say in terms of where you see that going in terms of being able to offer these things, so when the doctors and lawyers have somebody to fix their things when they break?
During the conversation after talking about what's the biggest issue, that is one of the more concrete, real issues, I think, within 113 that's not being addressed or isn't addressed adequately. The mission for 113 is to address every student. Not every student wants to be a doctor or a lawyer. Not every student has that as his or her passion.
Or the ability
or the
financially.
Ability, or the back, the cultural, whatever. I mean, it's not for every student, and I think it's imperative that 113 take that mission to address the needs of every student, to really to start thinking more deeply about vocational type programs, to start thinking about what is going to excite the passion of some students who don't want to go to college. Or, in a sort of related vein, when I was thinking of running, one of the people I talked to, her son graduated at the top of his class and went to one of the service academies. He was on the football team. And, there was like 15, 20 Latino kids enlisted in the military straight out of Highland Park High School. Not one of them applied for an ROTC scholarship. And it's how does that happen? Exactly. There's lack of knowledge.
Lack of guidance as well.
It's not, I don't hold the student accountable for that. I hold the school and the administration and the counselors, they're the ones who are
A
accountable.
lot of us need to get out of our own ways. I mean, the fact that maybe I don't want my daughters to go into the military, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good choice for somebody else.
Look, there's some operational issues that need to be addressed. We've got very different ratios of counselors to students at Deerfield and Highland Park. Far more kids per counselor at Highland Park. I think they each work with 400 kids.
Yes, you can't.
How much attention can they get? Second of all,
1 hour.
they are college counselors. You've got your guidance counselor, and your guidance counselor will help you get essays written by whoever needs to write an essay for college applications, and then your college counselor will help you write your own essays and that kind of thing. None of those counselors are particularly well versed or
If you want to
seemingly
become a heavy
interested
equipment
in
operator,
helping really guide.
if I was a student at Highland Park High School and I wanted to go to the East Coast to learn how to operate heavy equipment, which easily pays well into the 6 figures to start when you're full union, not to mention overtime, where these operators are making $150,000 a year, which is a lot more than the average starting attorney makes in Chicago.
In the Permian Basin, there was that article, you know, that.
Right, so my point is who do I go to?
Right. And,
Please,
and that doesn't
please,
exist at the
please,
level that it needs to.
Please don't neglect that, because I think that's a huge
Absolutely.
miss.
And we were actually talking, a group of us at a coffee we had this weekend, about the increased number of universities and colleges that are requiring kids as part of their degree program to do internships at some point. Not summer internships, internships as one of their semesters during school, or 2 of their semesters. I think Butler is one of them, and I don't remember all the others, but somebody had a student at Butler who said, my kid now has to take 2 different semesters during the course of the 4 years there and do internships, and that's part of earning your degree. And to me, whether that internship is for professional position or something else, it's still showing the importance of practical work experience. Now we need that to bring that down into the high school, where kids who are not planning on going to college can get that practical experience for their career step, which for them, the career comes right after high school. So why aren't we giving them the same kind of
I don't want to get off
guidance?
track at all, but I was on the board of Skokie Chamber, and we were presented not too long ago by a woman who's in charge of the program, I think at Maine South, and she works within the Niles area to all the businesses to have a program for vocational training for all the kids that are going in through their system, so they can be placed in internships and jobs to learn over the summer or while they're in school. So I would be happy at some point to try to connect you, but there are other people piling things that would be
Oh,
beneficial.
absolutely. And there are, and one of the things that 113, and one of the other issues within 113, it's tended to have this sort of, you know, insular, it doesn't want to work with other agencies or other educational entities as much as it really should. I mean, that's an area where even if it's, at 113 doesn't want to take on the staff to handle that kind of thing, to partner with other organizations, or to partner with Lake County College or something like that, absolutely.
And there's got to be some battle there. There are still a large group of parents across Highland Park and Deerfield that are very much focused on, my kids not only got to get good grades and good test scores, but my kids got to come from a school where everybody gets good grades and test scores so that it's competitive. And we have to realize the fact that we have a different community here, at least at one of our high schools, and I think probably to a greater extent than is recognized at the other as well, that there are kids who, that's not what's for them. They're coming out of different backgrounds, different family backgrounds, different cultures, and they've got a different mindset for what they want to do and how they want to go about it. And at some point, we've got to get the community as a whole behind something that allows kids from all different backgrounds to achieve. And that's going to be the battle on within the board, I think.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time. We're gonna
Thank
move on
you.
along here to 112.
Really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 112.
Hi. I want to thank you for having us here tonight, and I wanted to introduce myself to the council. My name is Lisa Hirsch. I'm running for North Shore School District 112 Board of Education. I'm a lifelong Highland Park resident. I've lived here for 44 4 years. I attended Red Oak Elementary and Northwood Junior High. My kids are also a product of 112, so my oldest son is a Highland Park freshman right now at Highland Park High School. He attended Elm Place Middle School, and my youngest attended Indian Trail and is currently an Edgewood student. I am a member of the 112 Long Range Planning Committee, former vice president of the Elm Place PTO, and a former Board of Education candidate. And I came here tonight. My approach is a little bit shorter, basically, than the 113 candidates. But 112 is going through a transition period right now where we went through school closures and are now taking on 2 very large construction projects with the new Northwood Middle School that's going to be built, and then Edgewood. I was part of that planning process, and I'm hoping that being elected to the board, that I can see that process through. At the same time, addressing curriculum issues that have been going on for quite some time, that we're looking to right that ship. And coming to you tonight, my focus is on really reaching out to Highwood and to your constituents so that we can partner together on issues rather than being separate. So I think it's important for 112 to bring in the dual language program and the participants, and also working families in our military population, and being more inclusive in general with different parts of our community rather than one part of our community. So, my focus as a board member will be to foster that inclusion and bringing, a holistic approach to the board. Melissa and I have been, we've been getting to know each other a lot, and we partnered together on a lot of the issues that are upcoming, and we look forward to hopefully working with you in the future. And any questions that you have for me, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Lisa. That was very nice. You've got a bunch of kids coming up the pipeline.
No, I think, I guess I don't disagree with anything that you said regarding the importance of being inclusive, and I don't know that many would disagree that District 112 certainly that's been an area that's been needed for improvement for a while. Do you have specific ideas or plans of ways that you can do that? Because it seems like we've all thought that or heard that from others before,
Right.
and it's been to no avail.
Well, I'll answer part of that, but also let Melissa answer that too. But we recently sat down with the BPAC, which is the Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee, which has a representative from Red Oak Dual Language Program and Oak Terrace, and we got to know them and discuss the needs of English language learners in the community and how to support them and their families as well. And I feel like that's been a group that's been underrepresented on the board, and specifically, we get highlights from each school that come before the board to tell the board what's happening with that part of the community, but we haven't heard from the dual language program, which should be celebrated. And it's, a lot of people have misrepresentations of what it is and what it actually offers. And just in general, the military population and a Highwood population as well, lack of representation on the board. So, and I know that current board members feel like they would like to do more as well. So exploring ways that we could do that and partner more is, I think, a very important piece that's missing.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Melissa.
Hi everyone, my name is Melissa Itkin, and I am also running for the District 112 School Board. Lisa said, we've been doing some events together and some meet and greets together. We really align in our thinking, and we also see ourselves as good complements. I am originally from the St. Louis area. I lived in Chicago, the city, for nearly 20 years, and then moved here just in 2013. So I've only been a resident of this area, this community, since 2013. And I live in Highland Park. I live on the south end, and I have a 5th grader that goes to Braeside, so she'll be going into the middle school next year. When I moved up here, I didn't know very many people. I'm from, like I said, the St. Louis area. My husband's from Detroit, so I wanted to get involved right away. I got involved with the 112 Education Foundation. My background is in the creative arts, in journalism and graphic design, so I worked with them on a rebranding of the Fun Run, the annual event for the community. And then from there, I found that I was going to more and more meetings about what was going on leading up to the referendum in 112. I wanted to find out more. I wanted to learn more about all the buildings and the schools, and really just understand a little bit more how the community got to that place. And through that, I learned a great deal, and I decided to kind of stay with that passion and applied for the 2.0 reconfiguration team. And with that, I was co-chair of the education subcommittee, and then a tri-chair of the committee as a whole, and delivered the final report to the board. The board decided to go another direction, but through that process, I learned a lot about not just the buildings and the facilities as part of the reconfiguration, but also about all the programming, what the needs are, what the full spectrum of learners that we serve, the different backgrounds. It's children come to school with different sets of challenges from the minute they walk in the door, whether that is maybe they haven't had proper nutrition and the district can help out with those things. Maybe they don't have somewhere to go before and after school, and the district is working on solutions for those things. The challenges that kids bring to school, even if it's a disruption in their home environment, is something that as a district, we can improve how we serve. And just recognizing that there is that social emotional piece factors into all these transitions. And that's kind of the overarching theme, I think, of what's going on in 112 right now, and Lisa mentioned it too, the ongoing transitions. Some of them are very exciting, but they are also going to be continuing to move kids and staff. This past year with 2 buildings closing and the introduction of new ELA and new Bridges curriculum was a lot of new. We had teachers that changed grade levels, changed buildings, and also were learning new curriculum, and then the kids also then were learning that new curriculum. We had kids switch Sherwood and Red Oak. We had kids switch from Lincoln to Indian Trail, and kids switch from Elm Place to Edgewood. A lot of movement. And what I would like to do going forward is continue to work on how to make those transitions smooth for those kids. We have plans for a very bright future. I'm excited about the new superintendent. I'm excited about the phase 1 planning for the improvements at Northwood and Edgewood. As a member of the 2.0 team, I worked really hard to plan improvements for Northwood. In particular, I spent a lot of time thinking about how things on that side of town could work better for those families. I think it's important that as a district we recognize that we do have a different demographic from our neighbors. We have a different number of low income, we have a different spectrum of socioeconomic situations, we have English language learners, and actually there are more than 40 languages spoken in our district. We talk a lot about the dual language program, but when we sit down with the BPAC leaders and really talk about what's going on in bilingual education, we have a lot of families that come to our schools with English as a second language to a number of other languages. And I think there are opportunities with BPAC and with the dual language program to bring together all the bilingual families and really create some exciting interactions. We talked about the military event at Red Oak last year, and wouldn't it be exciting to spread that around a little bit more? I would love for my child at Braeside to have learned more about our military population, to have participated in an event like that. So then can we also do some of those things with our dual language students? One of the changes in the past year, as you know, was that Oak Terrace and Red Oak were assigned as dual language academies. And that's exciting from the standpoint of resource efficiency, but I think then it also presents the new challenge of how do we make sure that all those kids are having an opportunity to interact and socialize with the rest of the kids in the district, so that they have some familiarity with each other prior to getting to high school. I would like to see maybe some opportunities for the kids to interact a little bit more earlier on, so that we don't have this sort of 30-year-old Highland Park, Highwood, Fort Sheridan, that we have really the sense of a whole district, that we are meeting the needs of all the kids in the district, the full spectrum of learners. And that includes the special education programs that were also moved this past year, making sure that we're meeting their needs. So I'm looking forward to a bright future, but I also want to stay focused on managing the transitions for the kids that are currently in our schools right now. They're going to be the kids that experience the most transition. They're also the kids that have experienced the longest set of years with measures of austerity, with BDR 1 and BDR 2 and the most recent BDR 3. I want to make sure that we're supporting those kids during this transition and looking out not just for the academic piece, the curricular piece, but also the social emotional piece.
Nice. You got your hands
Thank
full.
you.
Got lots of changes going on over there.
Yes.
Any questions? Well, wish you the best of luck. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And, yeah, you've got our emails. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out back out to us.
Great.
Thanks for coming
Thank
out.
you so much.
Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. You really don't have to stay for the rest of our meeting. It's pretty quick.
Be done by the time you.
By the time you back up, we'll be out the door behind you. We've discussed pretty much everything in length.
You're not serving a meal then?
Yeah, right. We have a little bit of your
Yeah,
Pellegrino.
yeah, a little
if
bit.
you'd like some. Yeah, no, there's no lunches here or dinners, unfortunately. Public opinion, anyone else? Enrique, anything back there you wanna, no? Okay, good. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you all. This is
Thank
what
you.
your board meeting should be like, by the way. If you get good enough, that no one comes in.
Very
Is that what it is?
It's all on TV these days. YouTube. All right. Mayor's report, we have nothing this evening. Committee's reports, no clerk's report today? Clerk's report? Nothing for the clerk? We'll go on to new business, I guess. So tonight we have two things before us. We have 12.1, consideration of a resolution approving an ARC application for new wall signage for New Pho Nam Bak restaurant, new Vietnamese restaurant opening up at 114 Washington Avenue. We have some changes to this, so we need to make the changes first, then I'll get a motion in a second.
Make a motion to approve with the changes as subject to
Contingent upon staff approval of the name changes on the sign.
Okay.
I'll second.
Good. And I think the reason we're doing this is, their name was a Vietnamese
Noodle soup.
Noodle soup, and it was suggested they change it to Vietnamese cuisine, and we just felt they should be able to pick the name they truly wanted. We were fine with anything they had.
We're fine with the sign too.
The sign's amazing. They did a great job. So we have a motion, second. Yeah, I guess, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 12-2. This evening, consideration ordinance amending 10-3-5 for the Appearance Review Committee procedures to increase the number of members from 5 to 7. If I get a motion for that, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, second, the reason we're doing this is we've had a lot of interest in people joining our different committees. And unfortunately, we only have 2. So we bumped this one up from 5 to 7, and that'll start relatively soon. We have motion second?
Would you like that to waive first reading?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was an ordinance.
It's an ordinance.
Yes.
I'll wait first reading, includes red.
Second's good with that?
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Fahlberg,
Yes.
Aspudowski.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Slavin.
Aye.
Leahy.
Aye.
Okay. Executive session, nothing coming out of it, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?